Use the use of drum samples, viewers get angry. Advocate the use of amp sims, viewers get angry. Damn, there is really no reasoning with musicians.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey everybody, welcome to an extra super special edition of SMG Viewers Comments. I had another one scheduled for this week, but you know what? We're gonna play that next Friday because I got so many comments on last week's episode about programming drums takes talent that I thought I'd do a special dedicated episode to everybody who wants to stand up and say, hey man, programming drums really does take talent. You don't know what you're talking about. So I thought I'd bring a few of those forward now.
Most of the music I listen to probably uses drum samples, and it all sounds much better than older recorded with real instruments, so I'm fine with it.
Pierre, you are most definitely what's wrong with metal today.
Copying and pasting MIDI drum grooves may not be all that impressive. Composing MIDI drum grooves with all the detail of an actual drummer, with the nuances of on the beat and or slightly behind the beat, with ghost notes and dynamic volume control, with super tasty patterns going on and fills that are super expressive, all the while supporting the other instruments and taking a song to another level? Yes, that kind of composing takes talent.
Be sure to let us know when that happens.
Ugh, you pretentious, outdated fart.
Yes, I'm sorry I grew up on such amazing drummers like fucking Dave Lombardo and Nico McBrain. Yes, all the guys programming drums these days. It's so much cooler, isn't it? I want to be just like them.
Any guitarist kills the performance.
Yeah, good. Because most of them suck. I got your multi-tracks. It was a timing disaster.
Why? Because we didn't arrange all the instruments to be 100% on a grid like a fucking machine? Maybe because I wanted a little bit of that human expressiveness in there? Dude, do you even know how bands play? Have you ever seen multi-tracks on a record that might have sold in the 70s or 80s? There were minor timing discrepancies. That's called performance! Maybe if we put some of that on a record once in a while, music wouldn't be so fucking boring!
So, what do you think of someone playing a MIDI drum set while using something like GGD instead of pre-made grooves?
Well, obviously that's going to take a lot more talent than, programming 4 bars and then copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And don't tell me you guys are going to do it all individually and do all the rest of the intricate bullshit, because we know that doesn't fucking happen. Seriously though, we did Lancaster Tone Wars there a month or two back, and Fake Smile Revolution contributed a track, and we got this. Now, in my opinion, that takes a lot more skill than sitting there and dialing stuff in with a mouse. That actually has to be performed. Mind you, that's not my ideal drum sound to put on a record, but I understand you have to work within your means, and I certainly am not disparaging his accomplishment at all. Ultimately, though, I would love to see him on a real kit. I'd love to get him in the studio here and try to record him and see what happens. I think that might be really cool. Hey everybody, got this one hot off the press. This week's episode, of course, is brought to you by Pro Mix Academy. We've got my brand new lesson, Mixing Metal in Reaper with free plugins. I just finished it up today. I've got my whole notes here so I don't fuck this up. So, it's an 8-minute song featuring the band Perpetuate. We've got Jackson Ward guesting on drums. This is an 8-minute piece. It has 89 tracks. And it's going for $67. It is my longest course ever. It's 6.5 hours. I take you through all the stages of mixing the drums, the guitars, and all the synth bits, the whole orchestra, the real contrabass, the real grand piano, and I do it all with free plugins that are either built into Reaper or you can download. And we also take a deep dive into the JS script plugins. There's some really cool stuff in there that's all absolutely free, and we managed to get some pretty interesting sounds with that. Now, what's super cool is for the next 2 weeks, we've got a couple of exclusive bundles going on for you guys. So we're gonna have a pro bundle up for grabs for $87, and that's gonna be myself and Warren Hewitt listening to your mixes on an exclusive live stream. We'll give you feedback on how to make your mix better. And for all you guys who didn't get the Ultimate Reaper Guide with Adam Steele, we're gonna bundle that with my lesson, as well as the feedback with myself and Warren for $147, and that's gonna be available for the next 2 weeks only, so grab it while you can. Anyway, back to the show.
Your cookie cutter, unoriginal, and substanceless records with real drums are miles worse than some black metal albums with a machine. You sound like such a boomer, it's cringe.
Yep, all my stuff sounds exactly the same as the last mix. Like this mix. And this mix. And of course, let's not forget this one too. Yep, practically identical.
No hate towards you or anything, but with the drum sample logic, how about keyboards and synthesizers? The audio is artificially augmented, but does it discredit the musician that played it? Musicians still play the piece, it's just replaced by a different sound. You can make the same argument with guitar pedals. For example, when using a delay pedal or any pedal effect that sounds unnatural or artificial, that wouldn't be done without effects. So is it just the dynamics and velocity of an instrument that determines whether it discredits the musician? Love the videos, man. Keep them coming.
I'm not trying to discredit a musician. Like I said, I go back to the Fake Smile Revolution guy again. You know, I think he did a masterful job with what he had. I'm just saying, don't let that be your end game. Let's hear what the drummer sounds like playing expressively, because we're not really getting that anymore, and I think that's a real shame. Let's put it this way. If I play a violin with a guitar synth, does that make me a violin player? No. No, it doesn't. That's still somebody in a much more expensive studio than me, probably with a really expensive violin, playing that violin, and all I'm doing is triggering off samples of a much better musician playing that instrument instead of me. So hopefully that explains it a little bit better to you.
Jiminy Christmas, what happened to just sticking a few mics in there and hitting record? Quantized, squeaky clean, antiseptic, pitch-corrected muzak is all I hear anymore. I miss those old records. You could hear the rooms, the ambience that wasn't added in post. The interaction between the players was created amazing, unique performances. Bands used to record live in the studio and then add overdubs and effects in post, but the initial performance is there. That's where the real magic happens, in my opinion. I'm glad I'm old and don't have much time left. I don't recognize this world anymore.
It's not to say it doesn't happen anymore. It still happens, but it's really fucking rare. Seriously, finding a metal record where the drums haven't been fucked with in any way, where we could actually still hear the drummer that hasn't been time-aligned or augmented with samples. I'm not even talking fully replaced. I mean like augmented. That's super rare these days. In fact, I'd say it almost doesn't happen. And I think that's a real shame, because we're really missing out, and we're not finding the Keith Moons and the John Bonhams anymore. It's always drummer plus bullshit, and I think that's really sad.
You can use EQ to make drum samples sound different. I've been using Drum Core 4, which has many individual kits using EQ compression inside each kit on each part, saving as a preset. Then use something like CLA Drums plugin, EQ plugin, can totally change the drum track, create a template, now it's your sound.
Well, it's your template using somebody else's samples that they created for you, but okay. I really can't say how unique that's going to make you, but enjoy your trip down the river denial.
Glenn, where on the music blasphemy scale would you put drum sample replacement / sample reinforcement? The samples were recorded from the actual drummer in the band project.
Well, of course it's still bullshit, but it's less bullshit because it's the actual drummer. I guess that would be cool. I used to do that, you know, when I was recording bands. At the end of the session, I'd make the drummer give me a sample set and some cymbal fades, that kind of thing, in case I had to do an edit and something had to be replaced. I found myself using those less and less as the projects went on, and I learned what to look for during the tracking stage so I wouldn't have colossal clusterfucks that would need to be fixed.
Amp sends versus sampled caps. You said it yourself. It's about the engineer, plus you still get the drummer's timing. As long as you don't fuck with the timing, guitar dynamics versus drummer timing. Draw. It still comes to engineering. Samples are samples. They are totally samples of mic cabs, period, the end. So stop thinking it's so different. It is not. Learn to not use sims and samples. How about that?
You're not quite getting it there. When a guitar player plays through an amp sim, it's still the guitar player. When a drummer plays back samples, it's samples of another drummer. Big problem I have with drum samples is quite simple. They can't do this. Let's see a sample do that.
I'd argue that programming drums takes skill as opposed to any natural born talent. Anyone can drag and drop a MIDI preset and copy paste it through their track. But programming at least fairly realistic drum parts, accents, ghost notes, velocity changes from scratch is something that took a fair bit to learn. It goes way beyond just hitting the humanize button in Reaper. It's worth clarifying that this is nowhere near as difficult to learn as actually playing and recording drums. Just saying it's not haha samples, go bum tiss, and you're done.
Well, unfortunately, in most cases these days, that's exactly what's happening. Again, I defer to Fake Smile Revolution. I have much more respect for that guy because he's at least playing an instrument. Somebody else is hitting samples, mind you, but he's still playing an instrument. And that's much more interesting and takes way more skill than programming drums.
Glenn exists. Random person. Butthurt over anything he says.
Oh, you're referencing the person from a couple comments back where he was spitting out cliches like boomer and cringe. People are so original these days.
223, before anyone says, so a drummer on E-drums using triggers or samples to activate samples is the same, a musician behind the instrument. No, it is not! The only human element you get is the timing and nothing else. The timbre and variation, the end result, is nothing that you can change afterwards. You're limited to a set of velocity curves, velocity samples, and activation zones. You get the full performance when recording a DI track from a guitar. You don't get the full performance recording on a MIDI drum set or letting drum triggers through. It's not the same. Get that out of your head, please.
Dude, that's exactly what I've been trying to say over the last few weeks. Thanks you for explaining that far more eloquently than I could. I'd love to put that on a t-shirt, but I don't think it would fit. And it doesn't matter how gracefully you spelled that out, half the drummers who just watched that are gonna go, huh?
I'm not gonna go where I'm not wanted, but that's the price you pay for being honest. True words are right there, lol. Sometimes people take honesty for being an asshole, and that's not always the case, and it's especially easy over the internet.
Well, dude, I really appreciate that. Thank you oh so much. I'm trying to stay honest here, and I'm trying to keep the musicians honest, and unfortunately, that tends to rub some people the wrong way. They expect an echo chamber circle jerk, and well, that just doesn't happen here.
As someone who is forced to program drums because of the lack of drummers in my area, I can confirm it takes zero talent to program drums.
Well, at least one of you guys is honest. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we managed to calm a few of the extreme butthurt commenters down. Yeah, right. Anyway, don't forget I've got my brand new lesson up in Pro Mix Academy. It is called Mixing Metal in Reaper with free plugins. It's an 8-minute song with 89 tracks, including a fully synthesized orchestra, real live grand piano, real live contrabass, and it's an interesting piece, especially doing it with free plugins. That's up for grabs now. You can follow the link in the description below, and you can get some super awesome deals on that. Anyway, until next time, get out there and make some metal, you awesome motherfuckers.